welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and today I'm back with the end of the year book tag. I think it's quite good to check in with your reading sort of throughout the year. And I did the mid-year freak out tag, so I thought it would be good to also do this one to see how my reading's been going since then. As I'm filming this, it is the 30th of September, so yeah, I'm filming this a bit in advance because I'm going on holiday, so when you're seeing this I will be on holiday. So I thought I would just film in advance, and it's quite good because it means I've got exactly 3 months left of the year to go. So there are only 6 questions in this tag, but I'll give you a few stats first. So I had a look at my Storygraph and I have read 89 books so far this year. That seems like more than I normally read. I've read 26,513 pages, which is an average of 297 pages per book. So that seems, yeah, fairly average page count. Like I thought maybe I'd read more books than normal because I was reading shorter books, but I'd say like an average book is about 300 pages, so that seems about right. It seems like I read like 15 books in January, and then basically every month since then I've been averaging 9 or 10 books. So yeah, apart from January, my reading's been fairly steady throughout. I read a lot of shorter books in August because I was in a bit of a reading slump, but apart from that, my page count has basically been the same throughout. So yeah, I have no real goals in terms of number of books I'd like to read. Like I read as much as I can, sort of, like with all the other stuff going on in my life, so I don't like, there's no point in me setting goals in terms of number of books, because it would just mean that I would be reading shorter books to get through more books. So yeah, for me there's no real point in doing that. I've read 80% fiction and 20% non-fiction. The non-fiction seems higher than, I don't really feel like I've read very many non-fiction books. I think that most of those are memoirs. Yeah, I've not really read very many sort of narrative non-fiction books. I would like to read a few more before the end of the year, but I do predominantly read fiction. It's kind of what I enjoy. So yeah, like I would like to read some more non-fiction, but it's not a huge deal. I also like to track how many translated books I've read, just because normally I'd say it's almost 50-50, and this year is not so good. So I've read 26 translated books and 62 not translated books, and there's one book that was like an anthology that some of them were translated, so I just didn't count that. I think there are a few reasons for this. Firstly, I was like trying to read all of the books off of my physical TBR, and a lot of them weren't translated. Also, I read 8 books out of the A Dance to the Music of Time series by Anthony Powell, which aren't translated. And then in September I started reading some fantasy, and I've not really found much translated fantasy, so I think that's probably skewing the stats a bit for that. But again, like I'm not too concerned. I think it's good to be trying to read diversely and reading from authors that write in different languages instead of just reading books that are written in English. But again, it's like not a big deal. Before I start on the questions, the other thing I just wanted to touch on is that basically at the start of the year, like before I had a YouTube channel, the main goal I'd set myself was to read all of the unread books that I'd owned from before the start of the year. So I owned 60 books at the start of the year, so that was exactly 5 books per month, and it was going so well until August actually, and I was reading my 5 books a month, and then I've just not read any in August or in September, which means that I've read 35 books, or DNF'd. I've DNF'd quite a lot of them, and I still have 25 books left to read, and that's just not happening. All of the books I have left to read are like over 350 pages. Some of them are like 800 pages plus. That's not happening. So I think I'd be happy if I finished the year with like under 20 books. I would need to read at least 5 more. Ideally, if I could read 10 more, that would be great. But yeah, I just don't think that's happening, but it's still a huge dent out of the books that have been on my shelf for the longest. I have acquired quite a lot of books this year as well, kind of surprisingly. Like I don't really feel like I've been buying loads of books, but yeah, I have quite a lot of new books. Most of them secondhand, so I may need to look at this again next year, as yeah, sort of making sure that I am actually reading the books that I'm buying. Anyway, but into the questions. The first question is, are there any books that you've started that you need to finish before the end of the year? Yes, There are a couple. I'm not too bad at, like, I normally don't really have books just sitting in my currently reading shelf for like a really long time, because I'll either DNF them or I'll like put them back on the bookshelf and think, I'll start that again from the start if I'm going to pick it up again. So there are a couple of books I've done that with. First one is The Pillow Book by Shonagon that I started like a few months ago, and I read about 100 pages and I just put it back on my bookshelf. I wasn't really enjoying it at that point. It's sort of the diaries of a gentlewoman in Japan who lived from like 966 to 1017, so it's like a very old text. There were so many footnotes that I spent so much, I felt like I was slipping back and forward, and because it's just sort of diary entries, there's no real story pushing it forward, and at the time I was just reading loads of other books and I just didn't have the brain power for it, so I put it back on my shelf with the idea that if I was going to read it again, I would start from the beginning. So yeah, I've actually still got a bookmark in this. I only got to page 60, and it's only like a 250 page book. So yeah, that one I'm probably not going to finish before the end of the year because I don't really want to restart it. I also read a few essays from Violent Phenomena, which is a book by Tilted Axis Press, and it's like 21 translators writing essays about translation, and I read a couple of them, but they were more academic than I was expecting, and I studied translation for my master's at university, and I honestly was just not in the mood for this. It just reminded me of having to read lots of very long boring texts, and I'm sure some of them are really good, but just the first couple were quite academic about translation, and I was just not really in the mood for it. So again, I put it back down. I think I would probably reread the essays that I read, or just not reread them. But I don't feel like, again, this is probably not a book I'm going to finish before the end of the year. I have not it's not one that I'm actively reading. One book that has been sitting on my shelf that I've been reading for like a month, I've not actually picked up in a couple of weeks, is The Autobiography of My Mother by Jamaica Kincaid. I read my first Jamaica Kincaid a few months ago. I read Lucy and I really loved it, and so I picked this one up, and I'm like 100 pages in and I was really enjoying it, but it was another case of I started reading too many books at the one time, and this just got sort of set to the side because I was like, okay, I need to finish this book by this date. And this one was not one that I had any sort of time frame for, so it's just been sitting on my bookshelf. But yeah, I was really enjoying this. This is a book about Jamaica Kincaid's mother, I guess. It's told from the first, it's told as if she is her mother. It is an autobiography type thing, she's talking you through her life. And yeah, I really like the tone of it. It was very irreverent. She was not really enjoying her life, and she was very critical of people in her life. And yeah, I am really enjoying this. This one's only 228 pages, so I actually might see if I can just finish this month. Because yeah, I've got no reason why I've not finished it. Next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition you into the end of the year? I made an autumn TBR video a few weeks ago where I put loads of books on it, and I think I've read a couple of them, but then I picked up a book that wasn't on that list. But I'm currently reading Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is a dark academia sort of fantasy gothic book set at Yale University. I mean, this book is very popular, but I read The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo this month, and I liked it enough that it made me want to read more of her books, and I've heard that this one is really good and a really autumnal read, and I'm 50 pages in and I'm quite enjoying it so far. So the next question is there a new release that you are still waiting to come out? No, not really. I do not follow new releases at all. Yeah, as I'm filming this, my dad pre-ordered me a book that I did not even know that he'd pre-ordered me, so it just arrived on Saturday. And that's A Thousand Feasts by Nigel Slater. I really like Nigel Slater's recipes and his writing, and this is a collection of essays about food. So it's not recipes, it's sort of travel writing. So for example, it's little 2-page sort of sections. This one's called Dumplings in an Alley. There's queuing for flatbreads in Tehran, green shoots in Finland. It's very much little excerpts of his travels and his food throughout the years. So I think I will read this one actually. This is perfect for autumn. It's very orange book with leaves on it. So yeah, that's one that's just come out. And then the other book that obviously everyone is talking about that's just come out is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I don't think I will be picking this one up anytime soon. Like I have read Normal People and Conversations with Friends and quite enjoyed them, but I've not read Beautiful World, Where Are You? And yeah, I'm not going to be rushing to pick up Intermezzo. But yeah, that is obviously a big one that's just come out, and I have no idea of any other books that are due to come out. I might get to some new releases. I think I've read like 2 or 3 books this year that are 2024 releases, so I'm not very good with keeping up to date. The next question is 3 books that you want to read before the end of the year. So obviously I made my autumn TBR, so I'll be reading some of them, but a couple of other books that I would like to get to. One because I've got it from the library, so it's kind of time sensitive, and the other 2 are books that I owned from before the start of the year. So yeah, the one I've got from the library is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. When I posted my video about all of the fantasy books I was reading, quite a lot of people commented saying that I needed to try Robin Hobb. She's a very famous fantasy author, and this is the first book in the Farseer trilogy that follows Fitz, who grows up and sort of is trained as an assassin, and I think I will really like her writing. And yeah, I'm really hopeful for this one. So I can see already that someone's already reserved this after me at the library, so I do need to get to this one. I think I might take it on holiday with me. So yeah, that's one I will hopefully be getting to. Yeah, and then 2 big books I would really like to get to. The first one is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. Again, someone commented saying that they'd really enjoyed this book when I was talking about fantasy books, because I read Piranesi and I liked it, but I didn't completely love it. This one is very long, and I've had this on my shelf for years. It's also very heavy. Like, I don't know what type of paper they printed this on, but it's very heavy paper. Yeah, this is a sort of fantasy book set in England in 1806, and it's to do with the sort of, I don't really know, magic society, I think. So yeah, I would like to read this one, mainly because it's been on my shelf for so long, but I think I could enjoy it. I did quite like Susanna Clarke's writing. I didn't think there was enough in Piranesi. I thought that the setting was really evocative in Piranesi, but I didn't love how the story finished, but potentially because it was quite short, whereas this one's very long, so definitely be a lot to sink your teeth into. And then the other one I would like to read, which again is very, very long, is 2666 by Roberto Bolano. I saw Kayla over at Books and Lala read this for her video where she was reading the top 10 books from the New York Times list, and she gave this one 5 stars, and she said it was just like really good, and she doesn't really read a lot of this type of book, which made me want to read it more, because I was like, okay, it's obviously got quite a wide appeal if people are really enjoying it that like don't really read sort of 800-page Chilean books normally. I honestly don't really know what this one is about. I read the first part of it like a couple of years ago and then put it down because I was reading other books and I just never got back to it. But yeah, I'm really hoping that I really like this one, and it's sort of, I think it's just the size of it keeps pissing me off, because the writing is really small as well, so we'll need to dedicate quite a lot of time to this, but I will get to it this year, I'm determined. Next question is there a book that could surprise you and become your favourite book of the year? Yes, I think definitely. I don't have one book where I'm like, whoa, that is like 100% my favourite book of the year. I've read a lot of good books, but nothing that sits head and shoulders above the rest. So yeah, I'm hopeful that I might still find, not necessarily a book that's clearly my favourite book, but I hope to find some more books that I love. But yeah, if I don't, I feel like it's been quite a good reading year, so I'm quite happy. And then the last question is, have you started making any reading plans for 2025? No. I do not really plan that far in advance of my reading, because I like to be able to just decide what I'm reading based on my mood, or yeah, if I become interested in a certain topic, like be able to just go and pick up books about that. So not really, but as I said, I think I will need to have a look at my TBR for next year. I don't think that it's going to work to try and read all of the books on my TBR. That didn't really work for this year, but I need to set myself some sort of goal to make sure that I'm at least reading like 3 books per month off of my physical TBR, because I'm quite good at reading library books. I think out of the books I've read this year, about 30 of them have been library books. So it's not like I'm just going and buying new books all the time. Like most of the books I'm reading are borrowed or I'm buying them second hand. But yeah, I just don't want to keep accumulating more and more books that I'm never going to read. So yeah, that'll probably be my plan for 2025. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Yeah, let me know if you have any books that you're really keen to get to before the end of the year, and I'll see you again soon.